Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed to the Substack DaftOnDraft.football, where you will get access to all of these charts on Google Drive for every quarterback in the class, access to insider information on the Discord channel, film rooms every single week, live chartings every single week, big boards, positional rankings, more and more. So make sure you are tuned in.
Welcome to the NFL Draft.
Happy New Year and welcome back into another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast presented by FanDuel. As always, I am your host, Corey Kennan. James is still out sick, so we have Sam Teets back in. Sam hopped on and did the mock draft with me earlier this week. Sam is back, and we are going to roll through another edition of some Daft or Drafts. So again, if you're unfamiliar with this concept, it's basically like buy or sell, Daft or Draft. So we're going to spit some hot takes out here, and we're going to decide whether or not we're buying or selling and discuss why. So I always love these episodes. They're a really fun episode. But before we do that, Sam, welcome back.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me back on. I know you texted me a couple hours ago. I was like, oh, yeah, I'd love to jump back on. And you mentioned it was Daft or Draft, and that's fantastic. 'Cause I don't think I get to do this very often, but I love all the conversations, these kind of discussions spawn. So it's great to be on here and talk to you tonight.
I love it. Let's jump right in then. All right, first one here, Sam, Daft or Draft. Tennessee cornerback Germad McCoy will still be the first corner off the board despite not playing in 2025.
I'm going to draft this. I think it will depend a little bit based on how much he's willing to do in the pre-draft process, because I just want to see more of him. Obviously, teams know more than we do regarding some of that stuff. And I know you've had some information regarding his health and his availability for the team for the course of the season. I think he still goes first among the corners. I do think there are some guys who could push him. It's a particularly deep cornerback class. So maybe he won't go as high as we expect him to just because there's some depth behind him. I kind of like teams a little bit more complacent at the cornerback spot. But I still think he goes first overall because the raw talent is just on another level compared to some of the other guys out there.
Yeah, I'm going to draft it too. And I think it really does depend what you said on if he's willing to run at the combine and do some on the field stuff, which, again, I was told that he was cleared in November, but they both parties made a decision, like, just don't even try it. But that he was practicing full speed and without a brace. And so I hope that means that we'll see some stuff from him at the combine. I don't know if he would potentially go to an all-star game and put some stuff out there or not. But I hope that for sure we see him at the combine. But when I just watch it, Germad McCoy, to me, I think it's a really good corner class. But to me, he's still the only corner that I think checks every single box of all of the corners in this class. To me, he was a top 3 player of me coming into from summer scouting into the season. And I didn't change his grade, and his grade still slides him as the 3rd best player on my board in this year's class too. So I think he's a tremendous football player. But again, going back to the other corners, like, I really like Mansour Delane, but once he transitions, I don't see elite recovery speed or vertical juice to really like cover the ground deep down the field. Colton Hood, I really love the burst and the physicality, but I think he's a little tight to transition. So it's like these other corners that I really like, they all still have unchecked boxes where, like, Germad McCoy is the only one I go back to the tape, the 2024 tape at Tennessee, and I'm just like, every box is still checked there. So I'm going to hang with that one. I'm going to draft that one too.
Yeah, when we think about these pillars, the guys who can be franchise-defining players, like the true blue-chip stars of the draft, I think McCoy is one of those players. It's just that it's this very awkward situation for the medicals where we haven't seen him play football. It's going to be like 1.75 years, like a year and 9 months since he's played the last game when he actually suits up for the preseason next. So it's going to be a while, which is a very unique situation overall. But maybe you can go back to like some of the guys who opted out for COVID who came back and played and were fantastic. And you can maybe use that as a basis for, hey, he hasn't played in a while, but might not make it matter at all. A lot of those guys who didn't play for COVID were still fantastic in the NFL.
Right. I think he's going to get a lot of comps to like Caleb Farley, who didn't play at Virginia Tech during COVID and then declared still and got drafted in the first round. But like, there's a difference between having an ACL tear, especially with the science and the recovery that ACL injuries have. Like, these guys are coming back in 8 months now. Versus Caleb Farley had a legitimate degenerative back issue that he got flagged for. Like, there's a huge difference between those two things. So a freak injury versus degenerative and ongoing. So yeah, I don't think there's too much to really buy into there in terms of the ACL, especially if he's cutting and moving already and doing things. I just want to see it. I want to see it pre-draft. So all right. Let's move on to a day 3 wide receiver discussion here. And this one was from you. You shot this one to me. Daft or draft, Sam? I'll leave it up to you first here. TCU wide receiver Eric McAllister will be the most productive day 3 wide receiver in the draft.
I haven't finished doing all my day 3 wide receiver evals, but I do like this one because McAllister has some tools that you don't really see paired together a lot. And oftentimes when you do see these paired together, they're talking about day 2 players, day 1 players. In terms of his size, his play strength, his speed combination, those are all really rare to pair together. He breaks a lot of tackles for a guy with his speed caliber. And you see after the catch moments are out there, certainly he can do a lot on fades downfield. He's working with Josh, who doesn't have the biggest arm in the world, so that maybe created some limitations for him working downfield this past year. But still, you hit him on posts, you hit him on slants, and he's able to take these catches, break a tackle or two, and then get 60 yards to the house. So I think that he'll work into probably a niche role early in his career. I know he's had some off the field stuff previously that might knock him down boards a little bit. He's not the most complete route runner. But if you think about him working into an Alec Pierce role pretty early in his career, and then maybe building his game up off of that, I think that's potentially the role and the pathway for him to develop into this wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type player who has a staying role in the NFL.
Yeah. So I've been trying to think like who are some of my favorite day 3 wide receivers, and I think they're all pretty niche players. So it's like, which niche player do you think is going to get the most touches? Like, I really love Xavier Thomas out of LSU, but he's kind of got to fight back against the gadget kind of stereotype, and how those guys just haven't panned out at the next level. And same thing with like Kendrick Law. I think Kendrick Law out of Kentucky is ungodly explosive and ungodly fun with the football in his hands, but kind of the similar skill set there. Even though Xavier, I think, was playing X and Z down the stretch for LSU once Michael Van Buren came in and was actually like getting wide receiver 1 targets for them down the stretch. So it's fun to watch that tape and project a little bit. But there's been one receiver in the back of my mind that's just like, some team's going to love this guy. He's going to be a big slot. They're going to target him. They're going to feather him early in like a kind of a Puka Nakua situation. Obviously not that extreme, right? Like Puka is the 99.99999th percentile outcome for a day 3 wide receiver. But like some receiver that's going to go into a camp and be like, oh, we can get this guy the football. And that wide receiver is Ole Miss's De'Zhaun Stribling. I don't know if you've watched a lot of his tape, but he can do some H-backy stuff. He's a big slot. I think he's by nature a big slot. I think there's just a lot of ways that this guy's going to be able to find the football field, and a lot of ways that a team's going to be able to get him the football. And so like in the back of my mind, I'm just like, Stripling's going to outproduce his draft slot. Stripling's going to outproduce his draft slot. And like, I can't get it out. He's going to be at Shrine. So I'm hoping to get a chance to talk to him. Oklahoma State transferred to Ole Miss and has done a few fun things in that Ole Miss offense and a variety of different roles. So I'm going to adapt it because like, there's just like this thing in the back of my mind with Stribling. It's like, this guy's going to find a way on the field. This guy's going to find a way on the field. This guy's going to find a way on the field. So I'm going to stick with that hunch in the back of my mind about De'Zhaun Stribling.
Yeah, I've watched 3 or 4 Stribling's games. I don't have a grade on him yet, but I think when we look at both McAllister and Stribling, I think it's the explosiveness and ability to create after the catch and some of that pure speed that all kind of combine together for those players where you have just rare athletic traits. I think when you're drafting on day 3, you're looking for those kind of, like you mentioned, more niche players who can find a role they can contribute in a limited build early in their careers. That's what you're looking for, is that rare trait. And they both have that explosiveness to them.
Yeah. I think if we're talking all-purpose yards, I'd probably still go Xavier Thomas because that dude has returned like 3 punts for touchdowns in his career as well. But there's just something about De'Zhaun Stribling and it's like, I can't shake it.
Who needs Puka Nakua when you get Chimere DK out there? Like,
right, exactly. Oh yeah, the most all-purpose yards from a rookie in NFL history or something like that. Chimere DK just set because of his return ability. Yeah, that's fun. All right. Moving on to the third Daft or draft here, Sam. UCF edge rusher Malachi Lawrence, drafted in the mid-rounds, will be a better value than selecting Texas Tech pass rusher David Bailey in round 1.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards drafting this, and I know that David Bailey's been fantastic. And if he comes out and balls up tomorrow, I might just eat crow over it and might just have to like pretend I didn't say that at all. But Malachi Lawrence is a really like specialized pass rusher. He's not going to be a good run defender. David Bailey can kind of get by, but he's not a great run defender either. Both have pretty good arm length. I think Malachi Lawrence is actually like 35-inch arms. David Bailey, I'm pretty sure, is like 34-ish or
He's
so.
plus 34.
Yeah, he's good. He's in the positives for him. But Malachi Lawrence has a really good pass set. He's got a pass rush plan. He's got a good number of moves. He's got great explosiveness overall. Bend is not fantastic, but I think it's good for a player with his build and size to work off of. David Bailey doesn't have the best bend in the world either. He's more about slingshotting around the corner than he is really getting low and ripping around the
Mhm.
outside. But I do think if you're looking for the value here, there's something to be said for drafting guys and kind of rotating them in, building this kind of arsenal or almost like an NBA lineup of pass rushers and having 4 or 5 guys versus going high and trying to get 2 or 3 of them. I think like the Pittsburgh Steelers, granted they've had injuries this year, but Pittsburgh has four pass rushers they rotate in basically at this point. They have 4 guys they trust.
Mhm.
I think there's more value to that than getting 1 or 2 guys that you want to primarily use. And you're taking David Bailey round 1. It means to me that you're playing him 75, 85% of the snaps. And I just don't know if I want to go that far with David Bailey.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. David Bailey's a fun and probably the most explosive player in the class. I feel comfortable. Like, he's gonna go to Indy and he's gonna leap 40 inches and he's gonna run a 4.4 something, like, as an edge rusher at
Awesome athlete.
6'3", 249 or whatever he is right now. And he might go into the combine at like 255 by that point. Like, awesome athlete. The flexibility thing stands. I do think his ankles are a little more flexible than the hips. So, like, he can play outside of his frame a little bit. But what concerns me most about David Bailey is what you hit on. Stanford, before he transferred to Texas Tech, literally did not put him on the field unless it was an obvious passing situation. Like, if you go back and you watch his tape last year, which we had to do for summer scouting, it's like, this guy is not on the field unless it's second and long, third and long, obvious pass situations. And you watch the Texas Tech tape this year and you see him on early downs and you say that's why. He's just not very stout at setting edges. He's not a very good run defender. And when we're talking about playing or picking a guy in the first round and expecting him to be productive, I need to see a better profile than what I see from David Bailey. And specifically what scares me the most, again, you go and you look at the past 2 NFL Defensive Rookie of the Years, Will Anderson, Jared Verse, where
Power.
both those guys win is with power through the chest. You got to be able to win with power through the chest. And despite how explosive and long David Bailey is, when he lands a punch into the chest of a tackle, I don't see that ability to really convert that speed into power. And that would terrify me as a team looking to take an edge rusher round 1 that you're expecting to be a change, like a game changer for your defense.
Well, and you have to consider too, these are Big 12 offensive tackles. Not saying like I don't mean to, talk down to the Big 12. I don't want to do that, but this is a different caliber of tackle than like the guys they had in the late stage Pac-12 even, or like the Big 10 or the SEC. It's a different caliber of offensive lineman in terms of the aggression and the schemes they're going with.
Mhm.
And it's just not the same as what you're going to get in the NFL, where they will legitimately attack you. And I feel like with Texas Tech, they had such a strong defensive interior that Bailey didn't get isolated maybe as much as he would in different scenarios on different teams or even in different conferences in those situations.
Mhm. Right. Like, I think the Arizona State game against Max Heinecker, I'm probably butchering that last name pronunciation there, but Max Heinecker, like, probably gave him his best bout, his best battle of any tackle, and that includes the Utah tackles. Max Heinecker probably gave him his strongest bout. And then on my report for Max Heinecker, I have written that, like, this guy's core is very soft, and, like, he wasn't beating Heinecker through the chest at all. So that's a little terrifying for me. But, Texas Tech still has a couple big games left here, potentially a couple big games. And obviously, the big one today, as this episode comes out on New Year's Day, where, FanDuel has them as 2.5-point underdogs to Oregon. But if they want to flip those odds, I think it starts with David Bailey, Romello Height, those guys going against Isaiah World and Alex Harkey, who I think have both produced some pretty disappointing tape after being some pretty high profile transfers from Nevada and from Texas State, respectively. So again, if Texas Tech wants to win this game, it starts right up there with those guys. So anything else you want to add to David Bailey and Malachi Lawrence here?
Not much. I think that Malachi Lawrence is just kind of flown under the radar. I think it's probably a result of the team he's playing on, them not really being relevant very much of the year. I think people are looking for, the big competitive teams and also looking for like the small school players, but they often overlook some of the group of 5 prospects who are legit talents. I think Malachi Lawrence is one of those guys.
Yeah, I agree. And he has a Senior Bowl invite, I do believe. So
I think so. Yeah.
Is it
I'm
Shrine?
pretty sure I'm going to
He's
see him
one
in
of the two.
Mobile in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So that'll be a good showcase for him. And that might be a point where we get to like, oh, this guy's legit. We might start to see him go against some of those higher profile tackles in a bad tackle class. So if this is the year to take advantage of it, go for it, Malachi. So, all right, moving on here to our 4th Daft or draft. Sunny Styles is not only the best draftable player on Ohio State's roster, but is the best overall player in the class. After draft.
This is really tough for me because I'm putting together my updated big board. I started doing it today in terms of like writing out the actual numbers, getting guys slotted in different spots. And I have Cardinal Tate and Sunny Styles both in the top 3. I'm really torn, man. Like it's hard to pick the best player in this class because really I want to make it Germad McCoy just because he hasn't played it all. Really,
Yeah.
I think that's like the easiest thing to do. But it's like to me, I might. I'm gonna daft this. I just think I'll take the
Mhm.
field on it. It's tough because, like I said, he's to me, Sunny Styles is gonna be top 3 for me. I just don't know if I'm gonna have him above Cardinal Tate and Jeremiah Love. Really, in my rankings, like he might end up being 3rd. He's a
Mhm.
tremendous player. I think you can. I think he's a better argument to be the best player on Ohio State's team overall than be the best player in the class at this point. But he's a really like high level linebacker, one of the best linebacker prospects I've seen since I started doing this 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was another in my Discord where I was crowd surfing some of these hot takes. Somebody also said like after draft, Sunny Styles is the best linebacker prospect since Micah. And Micah was drafted as a linebacker back in 2021, and I think there's probably a legitimate case to that. Like if we go back and we look at all of the linebackers drafted in the first round, I I mean, I obviously he's better than Jamin Davis.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like Roquan, is it like Roquan Smith,
So
the last first round linebacker to be legit, like multi time All Pro? I'm trying to think about
so yeah,
off the
let's
top of
go
my head.
back. That would have been 2018. Roquan, Tremaine Edmonds, Leighton Vander Esch had a nice run before the neck injury caught up to him. Rashawn Evans were the first rounders there. 19, Devin White, Devin Bush, Jelani Tavai was in the second round. Devin White, Devin Bush. Sunny Styles is a better prospect than both of those Devons. Isaiah Simmons had a lot of love, and if we don't use hindsight analysis, people would say that Isaiah Simmons would have been graded higher. I'm still gonna draft it because Sunny Styles is my top graded player in this class. Like, I love Sunny Styles. Um, so moving on, he's still in 2020, better than Kenneth Murray, better than Jordan Brooks, better than Patrick Queen. Um, Micah Parsons, Zaven Collins, Jamin Davis. Micah's really the only argument we've hit so far. Quay Walker, Devin Lloyd, I would still say. Jack Campbell in 2023. None in 2024. Jalen Walker, Jahad Campbell. I would say, yeah, he's the best linebacker prospect since Micah.
Yeah,
Probably since
I think it's
Roquan.
him. It's like it's him, Micah, and then Jihad Campbell's probably my next highest grade guy. I had
Mhm.
Jihad grade, I think, with a top 10 or 12 grade. I was pretty high on him. So
Yeah, it was just the shoulders and the knee.
yeah,
All
the
3 got
injuries.
flagged at the combine.
Yeah, the double medical flag, never a good thing.
Yeah, never a great thing. So he fell to 31. But yeah, I would draft this because again, when I went back and updated my big board when I dropped my top 50 probably 3 weeks ago now. And I was catching up on all the tape and I watched like the last 3 or 4 games of Sunny Styles and I was just like, the eyes are fast. Like where's like there's no like degradation with the eyes. We obviously know he's converted safety, and which is even funny because I think his instincts and coverage are still like where he lacks the most, despite him being a converted safety.
I'm
And then
really glad you brought that up.
yeah, but it's not like he's detrimental in coverage. He's still
No,
like fluid, and he has a foundational baseline in coverage to work with. Um,
yeah.
and
I
then
think I
you watch
started
him.
watching him in 2023, and like you mentioned, like
Mhm,
his coverage skills were very like not developed like a couple of years ago.
mhm.
I was like, you said this guy's a former like defensive back, doesn't look like that at all. But the jump, I think, even from like last year, where you're thinking, okay, the traits are fantastic, but he's a little bit mentally slow. The run fits are kind of inconsistent. He's a little lost in space at times. To this year, where I kind of compared to like the Gray's able to jump from his second to last year to his final year, where it's like goes from being okay, good athlete, but doesn't really have it all put together to suddenly this is like all American level stuff, like true top level elite player in football. I think that's what we're looking at with Sonny Styles.
Yeah, and then the other thing I was gonna say, then you see him step down in his fits, and you see him punch blockers, and like the reverberation that comes off of his hands when he stacks blockers, it's like, and he's doing all of this while being an elite athlete at a legitimate 6'4" and 240 pounds. Like,
Yeah,
there's not a box this guy hasn't checked for me. And so, like, that's where I had to come to the realization, the conclusion, like, if he checks all these boxes, then I have to give him a blue chip grade. Like, that's a blue chip player. So I think Sonny Styles is the best player in this class. So I'm drafting this one all day long. All right, we got 2 more here, Sam. We're gonna hit you say the quarterback one for last. After draft, Connor Liu, who I just did a film room on my Substack, if you want to go check that out. Auburn center Connor Lew made the right decision to declare for the 2026 NFL draft despite being only 20 years old and coming off of a torn ACL. That was suffered in like week 7, I believe.
Yeah, I think I might. I like Connor Lew, but I think I might daft this one just because he was very good like the first month of the season. But then the last like 3 or 4 weeks he was in there, including like the Texas A&M game, he was pretty inconsistent. So I don't think his best tape is what he left off with. And then again, he's a young center. It's a position that's not super highly valued. It's a very bad center class. There's legitimately, I think, 2 guys I would consider taking in the top 100. It's him and Matt Golden from Michigan State. I think James pointed it out, and
James
I
was,
went
yeah,
back and
big on
watched it. It's
Golden.
like
Yeah.
he's pretty good. But I think Lou is the better of the two centers in terms of the athletic traits. I just don't think he's got the best anchor comparison to Golden. I just wish I saw more tape from him in a more complete final season because it feels like this year is pretty inconsistent. He's coming off the injury. Almost all the 50-50 guys it feels like are declaring this year. A lot of times you see him go back to school. This year they're mostly all in. But I can't get him more. I can't really get him above a third round grade right now based on what I've seen so far. And that's kind of where I think he could have been like a second rounder if he had gone back to
Mhm.
school and had an all American year.
Yeah. I also have a high third round grade on him. So the argument starts with like, I think the Tyler Linderbaum situation is the perfect example of why like I just don't think center should go round 1. Baltimore took a center round 1 and won't pay him his 5th year option because his 5th year option would be millions more than the highest paid center. So like if you're only picking up a guy for 4 years anyway, don't take him in the top 32. Because like what's happening now is Linderbaum's going to go test free agency, or they're going to have to tag him to pay him lower than his 5th year option would be. Like
Right.
he's
And
not
that
going to get
tag,
that.
isn't that tag like, doesn't that lump together some offensive line groups? I'm not sure if it does that for centers, but I know like there's certain classifications for the tag where it takes multiple position groups together and it's not divided up. I know it's the way the 5th year option as well. So it might cost them more money in the long run than if they just again took them in like the top of the second round.
Right, exactly. So like I find it hard that I would ever give a center a first round grade, just because of that. But I did settle on a high third round grade, and that he's 36 on my board right now. Um, but again, coming into the season, he was getting big time hype. And then I think the tape was a little disappointing. I think I'm a little higher on his core. I think when defenders have that running start into his chest, he does have to take a couple hop step anchors, but like I see it pretty frequently with a lot of centers. Like they all deploy that kind of hop step anchor. And so like I don't necessarily see that necessarily as a bad core. But when I do see him jump set right off the snap, I think he's got a strong core. The hands are pretty clean. So and he's really fluid and really athletic, I think is a good place to start that conversation too. So there's a lot to like with Connor Lew. But yeah, I have a third round grade on him. But was it the right decision after draft? I mean,
Yeah, I don't think for him, and even like I said, Billy Stroth from Notre Dame was a guard who I had a 4th round grade on over the summer. Like both these guys are declaring after injury shortened seasons. And I don't think their best tape they could have put out there. I just don't know. Like for an offensive line, for a position group where the NFL doesn't really care how old you are because of how
mhm.
offensive linemen tend to age like fine wine. They don't really care much for like if you're in your mid 20s versus your early 20s, it doesn't impact them as much as say receivers, running backs, defensive backs, even linebackers. Uh, in that kind of position group, I think going back to school is more ideal almost than declaring. It's one of the few positions where I would actually advocate for more experience in college than just going to the NFL early.
Yeah. My question is how much is NIL paying centers, right? Like they're not getting tackle money, and I know tackles get like 2 million, like they can get up to like 2 million, and that's what like good defensive tackles will get paid too. Signing bonus for a top, let's just say the 50th pick here. The signing bonus is $2.66 million. So like, was it the right decision? Probably. Was it the best tape to come off of? Probably not. But again, these decisions are starting to come in, go back to school or declare, and that does probably mean that NFL draft committee feedback from the advisory board is starting to come back. And if for him to declare, I think that would indicate that he's gotten probably at least day 2 feedback. The way the feedback goes is they tell you first round, day 2, or back to school. Like there's no other breakdown from that. So like I think that he would have had to have gotten day 2 feedback to have decided to declare.
And that feedback does tend to lowball some of the younger guys as well. So the fact that if he's getting day
Mhm.
2 feedback, it's probably firm day 2 feedback. Like you're not going to be questioning about dropping to day 3.
Right. Right. And again, I just keep emphasizing that like the guaranteed money doesn't change despite the quality of a draft class. The top, like the 50th overall player in this year's class is probably not going to be the same quality as the 50th player in last year's class. They're making the same amount of money, like off the draft slot. So that's hard to turn down for a multiple reasons. But we'll see how it plays out. Centers you can protect a little bit at the NFL level, especially early on in your career too. So we'll see how that pans out. Last one here, and we have to throw this one in here because Arch Manning just had an unbelievable bowl game performance against Michigan where he rushed for over 150 and 2 touchdowns and threw for over 200 and a couple more scores and Texas beat Michigan. Nate Tice from Yahoo Sports got a ton of heat when he said, like, it was probably a month ago now, like, Arch would still go 1 if he declared this year. And he got a ton of social media heat for that, and ever since that has been put out, it's kind of like Arch has kind of solidified that. I would even say the back half of the season has been solid. You even go watch the Georgia game, which Texas lost, and I'm like, that's a really good performance from him. So again, I haven't charted him. I won't until we get past this draft class and into the summer to really have a definitive take. But the hot take here is, Sam, after draft, if Arch were to declare for the 2026 NFL draft, he would be the easy money 1.1 first overall pick.
Yeah, I could see top 10, but I don't think 1.1. I'm gonna daft this right now. We were really robbed of this Texas team, this version of Texas team being in the college football playoff. I mean, I would have loved, like, we could see 2 or 3 of games of him in the college football playoff. I think that might have changed my mind a lot, but unfortunately, we don't get that from him. We have seen some of the guys right now. We've seen like the heroics, the late game heroics for some of these Big Ten quarterbacks at this point, and so I kind of lean towards them, the experience that they have. We know that the NFL values the multi-year stars at this point in time compared to like the 1-year starters. So I think that there's some value to having the Fernando Mendoza multiple starts at different locations. Dante Moore kind of rebuilding his career. So I kind of lean more towards the more veteran, experienced players at this point. Arch, in terms of the physical tools, has the ability to surpass both those guys. I think no one's debating that. But I would like to see from start to finish a complete year from Arch before I get into, okay, he's going first overall type category. I don't think I'm there just yet.
I think I would still draft this. Like, for one, he's got the name brand, right? And
Oh, yeah.
that plays. Like, you can say it doesn't play, it plays.
It
Even in
matters.
the NFL, it matters that his last name is Manning. The tools, as you mentioned, are better than Moore in Mendoza. The arm is better than Mendoza and Moore, and the athletic ability is better than Mendoza and Moore. Again, I think he reminds me of like Trevor Lawrence with the B+ arm, where Trevor Lawrence was as long and athletic and fluid with an A arm, right? Like, but like he's Trevor Lawrence with the B+ arm is kind of what I would call it. He's really fun. I'm glad that he started to put it together again. I'll dive into it more once we get through this draft cycle and into summer scouting a little bit. I'm actually hoping to wrap this draft cycle up by like mid-March so that I can have a little bit of a head start as well and start talking about some of those quarterbacks early on. But I'm going to draft it. I still think that he would go number 1 overall, man. And I wish he would declare so that we have more than 2 quarterbacks to talk about.
We need it. I mean, let's put it this way. For guys who are like on the fence but declaring, if you declare now, you're probably just slotting into like an automatic top 5 position. Yeah, like it's so easy for a lot of these guys. Like to Connor Lewis' point, one of the reasons he declares is probably because he easily sees himself as being a way to compete for center 1. And there's an easy way for man to compete for a top 10 position in this draft. I'm putting in my big board right now. Again, like it's an easy pathway to be a top 10 player in this class if you're a guy like Arch Manning, who, by the way, like the AI analytics tools are saying like he hit like 21.7 miles per hour in that long touchdown run earlier. And you talk about the arm talent it's got, plus the mobility, the top speed. We need this guy in the class badly. We need one more guy.
I don't think he's changed his mind. I wish he would, but
I don't think he is either.
Yeah, but I'm glad too because he's kind of. I mean, you don't like. I don't want to say like, oh, I feel bad for this guy, but I kind of do. Like, he came into the season with so much pressure. Like, already everybody's talking about this kid. And then it doesn't start out the way that I think anybody expected it to early in the season. And then he found his way. And I don't know if he was dealing with some like injuries early on in the season. I think that he had some shoulder ailments that I think he was dealing with, but he looks good. He looks healthy, and he's playing high level football to end the season or has played high level football to end the season.
Well, and
now
to
that
his
Texas
credit, he
done.
could have easily crumbled after like the first couple of weeks because
Mhm.
especially after that Florida loss and everything like that, that whole country and all the hype it's coming back to him in that wrong way. And now you turn around and you have a great end to the season. It's a 10-win program this year. You have a chance to enter next year on fire. I do sometimes worry about these late season pushes where guys are really good because
Mhm.
sometimes it turns around and just you have to basically restart the next year and it's the same process all over again. I don't think it'll be that way with Arch just because of how he's really matured. He's playing an elite level football right now, I think.
Yeah, and you got to be cautious about bowl games too, with all of the opt outs and stuff
Yeah.
like that too. So I tend to not even watch bowl games when I'm evaluating guys over summer. But that's it, man. Sam, do you got anything else for the people?
No, I'll just say if you want to check out some of my content, you can go check out my Substack, Sports Talk with Sam Teets. We're dropping a new big board tomorrow, which I guess will be today now. It's going to be out. It's free and fully available for everyone. Going to have 250 plus names on it now, I think. I have to go check the final number because I'm just putting it together tonight. But we're going to have massive big board drop. We've got tons of our draft content there over there, including scouting reports, all free for free. And if you want to check out some other content I'm making, including clips, you can go check them out my Twitter, Sam_Teets33.
There you have it. Sam does great work. Follow along. Until next time, though, this has been another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. Thank you for tuning in. See ya.